this was kind of the idea that we wanted to work with. And actually, if you imagine that there's a curve going up also on top of this, if we have it in 3D, so you know, in the start there's just like a moment where it starts, maybe the explosion and so on, but then it goes up and up and up until the last thing. Actually, in a tragedy, it always, as I said, ends in the worst possible place, with the friend being tortured or the girlfriend being kidnapped and killed and so on. So it's kind of a big hill going up here, you know. So that was the idea with this one, actually. So we also work with these engagement drivers in the interactive narrative experiences. A lot of you said that you're curious about seeing what is happening and so on, the cause and the effect, and the suspense, also what's going on, you know, is this rocket gonna hit me or not, and so on, you know. In the progression, you go through these experiences, and completion, you want to see what happens at the end, how do I get out of this, or something like that. Then we have the characters, of course. There's a woman screaming, help me to find my family, and so on. I don't know if anyone saw that. No?
I think I may have heard it, but
yeah, yeah. So maybe then you go on a quest of finding this. There are nowhere to be found, you know, but she's there. Then you have the emotions and the effect, of course. Exploration, there's a lot of people who want to do that. And then we have the sensory and the audiovisuals that we can use for engaging people in these experiences. So, some examples of that, engagement drivers, examples, the experience events invite the participant to set up self-defined goals, as we just talked about, right? And the witnessed events create curiosity to witness the causes and the effects of these things. As I just saw this woman there, she says, where is my family? Of course, it's kind of the game that sets it up, the purpose of finding her family. And there's a lot of people who try to save the girl, but you actually, by just going there, it blows up, just to see the tragedy in that, you know. As you say, the bomb, the walking bomb igniter. So we did some preliminary evaluation on it. We did qualitative interviews with 11 people and a focus group interview with, not so many people, 3. And then a quantitative questionnaire with 19 frequent gamers. And so it was not so big, but it was just to get some idea. And the results of the engagement part, there's a lot of people that wants to explore it. They want to identify the environment spatially. The overall context of a war zone situation was kind of communicated. And there's an interest in the experience, not for entertaining, but to, these are quotes from the questions that we asked about the answers. To understand a given situation, learn about how things practically work in the environment. So they're actually wandering around and see how these things are working. I guess you used a lot of time to find out that and to check it out to see if you could get things exploded or something.
No, it was the opposite. I was trying to make sure things didn't explode before I got a chance to look at them. Because I want to see them, right? The bubble is not interesting.
What does it look like? Exploded.
It was kind of the other way around. And I felt so guilty at times. You know, it was like I was the invulnerable suicide bomber, and it's like I didn't want that building to blow up. But that's a valid sense, right? The sense of I don't want these things to blow up. This is a town that with people in there that I don't want to see hurt. And they're still getting hurt no matter what, and that's actually a valid outcome, I think, of the experience.
Okay, another thing was the curiosity. A lot of people are interested in the final outcome of the story. They wanted to try it again, as you also talked about. They're motivating couriers to explore the environment despite the tragic content. I had to discover what it was all about. There was something going on, and I wanted to figure out what it was. So this is also one of the drivers that it's actually a little bit comparable to normal storytelling, right? Of course, because we are with events, with stories. Emotions. A number of emotions were also encountered. They expressed their frustration because they were not able to help people, you know. And also maybe some of you tried that when you get up to the girl, she's just being blown up, you cannot get her out there. I got frustrated that I couldn't save the girl, and the guy hanged out there. I was helpless, I couldn't do anything, just like in a real war situation. Understanding the theme and the awareness of the overall situation, I experienced the start of a war. And there was a willingness to be engaged in the dramatic encounters, which attract them empathically to other characters. So, for example, here there's some people, there's a guy being shot, and you actually wanted to go in and help them, but you couldn't because there was a fence and so on. And then the social and ethical issues that we wanted to communicate. All the test subjects expressed a willingness and tendency to aid others that needed or called for help. So this was also the idea of this, that try, instead of just wanting to have people to shoot other people, they actually wanted to help people, and to see if it was possible to see this trend there.
Well, it's a bit like we're used to being powerful in first-person shooters.
Yeah.
I mean, like the premise of the game is like you're
Yeah.
powerful and you want to have that power back somehow,
Yeah.
even if you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
When someone calls for help, there is there's a suggestion that maybe there's something you could do.
Yeah.
And in a game where you're entirely powerless, that's very enticing.
Yeah.
Even though obviously in the end it turns out you can't do anything.
And I think also with our expectations as gamers, here we are in this chaotic environment, you're trying to figure out, we're not really given much setup, we aren't even told what, we're not even told to use the mouse and WASD, we're told pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, when suddenly you hear something that's a clear instruction, I think you're inclined to follow it.
Well, yeah, like someone asking for help, like that's from Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
That's a basic prompt, or like somebody needs help.
Yeah,
so
that's a very common trope of
Yeah.
video games.
Yeah.
Plot this way.
Yeah. So the next thing is something I did recently, where the first day I talked a lot about engagement also, and this idea of evaluating engagement. And during the experience, you saw the questions, right? And Konstantin and Lars, you tried it yesterday. There was a lot of questions, not only to answer this one. How do you agree with this sentence? I want to begin the experience, I want to continue the experience, and I want to try it again. From strongly agree to strongly disagree. So it's this, it's a 7-point Likert scale that we have used. And of course, this is super, subjective measures, and it's self-report and so on. But the idea with this is actually to see how we could make this experience more engaging, or maybe so engaging that you didn't want to try it when you tried it. You explained your experience yesterday. You actually wrote in the questionnaire that in the end.
Yeah, so I never got a phone call. So my whole game was kind of like figuring out what's going on and trying to save people that died.
Yeah.
So when I reached the end of the game, I seriously I would never play that game again. Like I felt sick.
Yeah.
And because, for instance, I would go to the woman in the end that was like strangulated or something, and you just stand there and you cannot do anything, and then you have to go out and you hear her screaming while you go out, and you're like, okay, can't do anything, so I would just leave her there.
Yeah.
And then the game was over, and it's like, whoa, like I would not go back, definitely not.
Yeah. And then you'll probably be all the way down here, right? Even though it's a very successful experience, right?
Yeah.
So this really shows that we cannot just get the measurement of this, we also need to know why people don't want to continue. So this is kind of the idea that I want to follow a little bit more, and maybe we talked about in the summer we could do something with your games, that we could try to test this engagement out by asking basically these 3 questions up there with a why also, so we can see if the game designer is actually their idea of making this game fun or engaging or something, is it really true, and why is it that people want to continue, in Afterland, you talked about this guy who wanted to just get everything, he wanted to complete it fully, right, even though he went away and came back and so on, right?
We have a picture of him.
Yeah.
2 pictures.
But I think it's actually neat. That's the other thing which death in the game might actually get back, because if you get to the end of the game because you can't die, then there's never a sense that your experience was cut short. Like you get the sense that you saw everything. As I explained with the drama manager, you don't see everything. So I think that's the other thing which this game could get you. You had death was the feeling that, hey, that was not the full experience. I want the full experience. So I'm willing to go back, even though it's a traumatic experience.
But for me, for instance, having the sense that I have no control, like I didn't even know. So you have, like, you can save somebody.
No, you can't.
So kind of like realizing that would mean that everything I go back to is always a dilemma that I cannot do anything.
But at what point did you realize that? Near the end of the game?
At the moment when this woman was strangulated and I couldn't even open the door and I could just look at her at the window and like not do anything, that was the moment where I realized, okay, this is the 3rd time this is happening, the 3rd time I can't do anything. And my decision was there will never be anything that I can do in the game. but it took like a while to.
It took a while.
Yeah.
They had enough time to sort of get the experience.
Okay, as you can see, the blue one here, this one is a male role player, and he's more, you know, 3 is strongly agree and -3 is strongly disagree, and this one is neither nor in the middle at 0, right? So he's actually very interested in playing this, except he didn't want to play it. In the end, we're gonna go back to see why.
What's the x-axis?
That's actually, here's the start. You know, how much do you want to start the game? How much do you want to? I want to begin the experience. How much? And then it's the scene A and scene B, C, D, E, and play again in the end. Yeah, thanks for that, because that's important to know here. The red one is a male strategy player who loves StarCraft 2. He goes very quickly down to strongly disagree. How much? 10 minutes?
No,
She's making faces to her husband.
Okay. And then the yellow one is a main racing guy. He is actually up here. He thinks it's very engaging, and he actually it's a little bit boring, but then he comes up again and really wants to try it again. So it's very subjective, as I say. We have to remember that. But here are just some examples of the role player. He says that he's curious about what happens next in the first scene. In the next scene, he still wants to continue, but he would like to be able to interact with objects. I think you also felt that. Also, I don't have any idea about where I'm going. I'm running around aimlessly. But then suddenly he says, now there are more things happening, and I feel that it actually matters what I do. And then number 3, I got captivated by the setting, you know, the sensory engagement. And in the end, he actually, it seems like there are no more places to go. I might go on and hike in the mountains though, because he wants just to do something else. And then he wants to try again. I feel that he didn't want to do that. He said slightly disagree. I feel that I explored everything I could. So, yeah.
Did he know that the drama manager was behind this? And that if he were to play again, he
No.
would be a different experience?
No.
Alright. So if he knew that, then he might have a different
Yeah, exactly. If you talk with other people afterwards, yeah, exactly. So here's the racing guy. He wants to experience what happens next, and he says that suddenly he's taking a more active part in the story. And then at the C level, you know, it's around the gas station. He's also a bit scared to continue. I think it was like Todd. He said he was scared to continue over there at the gas station. And several times felt an overwhelming urge to save the game. You know, maybe that was the same thing as you thought, to be able to try something out. And then he says the same as before. He wants to find out if he escapes or not. And he's very curious to see the different choices in the experience and whether different decisions would have led to different paths, you know. So depending on where he went, he didn't know about the drama manager, but he still wanted to try it out. And then we have the last StarCraft 2 player. He was quite interested. 2 is pretty good. Low mouse sensitivity, boring graphics. And then he has more or less the same lack of other persons and realism made me everything very dull. So he was not so interested in this course.
He'd have rushed Zerg to take over the city.
The lack of realism is a really, really funny. It's a really, really funny comment.
Yeah, it is definitely. Yeah, lack of realism. What is that? Yeah, StarCraft.
I would imagine that. Yeah,
Pure realism.
Yeah. Okay, conventions are very strong. Where's the goal? We had a guy trying it the first time around. He said, an honest attempt at making some kind of game, but where the developers forgot actually to add a goal. As well as explanation to the player what the goal was. Oh yeah, it was like running around in some area of Second Life, no purpose to the scenery other than being scenery plus random noises and stuff flying around. And he was a first-person shooter player. So, there's the... And it is the problem there, what is it? Is it a game or what is it? So, the possibilities with this is that the prototype is an example of these ethical and socially responsible applications could offer the user an active and instructive opportunity to be in contact with the sensible issues. You know, we could also have it for other things like racism. How is it to be a person in a new town where everybody is different? Discrimination, if you're a minority group, you could have understanding of other cultures and these kind of things. So, you know, you could actually put yourself into this experience of being in another place with other sets of rules and so on. And the next steps with this is that we are trying to make the prototype better and better almost every week. And the idea is that I hope that we can get Javid and Faisal to go and travel around with this experience and tell about their own experiences from being a refugee and use this as a starting point for it at high schools and colleges back in Denmark for a start. So that's the idea, and maybe we can also make it kind of a more teaching material that can stand by itself with a teacher, of course, having to nurse the students and so on.